Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and this is week 6 of my 12 weeks of Christmas series. Crazy, we're already halfway through, but there you go. So I'm going to start by actually embossing my background panel. I have a stencil here. This is the Simon Says Stamp Scattered Snowflakes stencil, and I had to pick a piece of cat hair out of it. I have pixie spray on the back of this. That is why it's staying where I've kind of set it down. And then I am going to pounce on some Versamark because I want to heat emboss this. I'm kind of doing a reverse technique here. If you didn't have a stencil you wanted, but you had a background stamp, you could use that too. I didn't have a background stamp that matched the idea I had in my head. So I am going to use this stencil, and then we're going to color it in reverse, because normally you would ink blend or whatever through the stencil, but we're going to heat emboss white embossing powder. You could use clear as well here because the panel is white. We're going to kind of just add color to the areas the stencil blocks out instead of the areas that the stencil has clear. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. You'll see it as we go. I am using some A2 panels of Distress Watercolor cardstock here. They're already pre-cut. Any watercolor cardstock would work, but you do need watercolor if you're going to copy the technique that I'm doing here. Just because I am going to add a lot of water to this panel here in a little bit, and you would need to have cardstock that could hold up to all of that water. So I'm going to go and heat set my panels. This does take a second because you have to think the whole background is pretty much embossed except for those little areas the stencil had left open. So it will take a second, but it just kind of seals in those white areas and gives this really fun look to the panel once we add color. I'm pretty excited with how these turned out. And if you guys have been with my channel for a while, you won't be surprised by a more pinkish Christmas card with gold. That is one of my favorite color combos, though there is a little purple and a little yellow in this as well. Pink, I guess pink and purple are pretty much similar in the majority of color here, but I like to do pink and gold. It's one of my favorite color combos, so I am really excited with how this card turned out. Hopefully you guys aren't tired of the snowflake cards. I do have other ideas. As the ideas come to me, I sit down and make the project, and then I can get it out of my head so I can have new projects come in. So it's kind of generally how I end up creating things. I did bring out a hardboard, and I am going to use some painter's tape just to tape my panels down to that hardboard. Again, as I said, I am going to add a fair amount of water to this, so I want to minimize the amount of warping as much as possible, and this is the easiest way I've found to do that. And I am trying to tape off the smallest margin on the edges. I am going to trim this down because I am going to matte it later. So because of that, I'm trying to give only the area that I intend to cut off the tape line. It doesn't work out perfectly that way, but I don't think that matters because the background has a lot of stuff going on. So I think it helps mask any area that isn't perfectly taped. So I'm not really concerned about that. And you guys know that I don't aim for perfection in my cards. As long as I like them by the end, that's really all that matters. And then I share these ideas with you guys so you can create them however you want to create them. You could do this with watercolor as well, though I'm going to use some Nuvo shimmer powders. You could use any, I think Brusho is another version of this. I own the Nuvo shimmer powders. I've owned these for years. I've only ever used a minuscule amount, as you can tell here. And be very careful if you have these and you're tapping them onto the background. Do not squeeze the bottle. You will get so much more color than you want. This medium is incredibly vibrant when you add water. So just be aware of that. Like here you can see, like this is just touching the surface. I'm going to go in and add a bunch more water because I have crystals that aren't broken up yet. And it's just going to turn into this kind of mess looking panel, but it turns out beautifully when it's dry in the end. So bear with me as we kind of work through the layering of this card. I do bring in a little bit of paper towel and I just sop up the big puddles of color here just because I don't want them on the card like that. Like you're going to see, I'm going to kind of bring it actually to the card. Right now I'm just picking up any moisture that comes off of the panel. But here I actually start going in and just editing a little bit of the color that's a little harsher than what I want, or if it's puddled up too much and you can't even see the detail of the background. So I'm kind of just doing both. Then I tip it a little to get a little more blend in my color, and then I will go and clean that up again. And I am going to bring in my heat tool just to stop the color from moving. I'm not going to heat this all the way through. I'm just going to kind of heat it a little bit to kind of get the color to stop moving around. And then I set it aside and let it completely dry before I brought it back in to work with it. Or sorry, to add it to the actual card bases. The background is done. You could do other things here. You could ink blend. You could, add some spritz. There's so many things you could add to that if you wanted to add a little different colors to the panel or whatever. But I was really happy with them when they were fully dry, so I stopped working with them and just left them alone. I did bring in the Simon Says Stamp Sophie Snowflake. This was designed by Christina Warner, and it's one of my favorite snowflake dies because it's large and it's just stunning. So I cut it out of gold cardstock, and as you can see, I am making 2 cards. So I cut it out of gold cardstock twice with the chrome shim because I find detailed dies like this, they just need that little bit of extra pressure that the chrome shim provides. You don't have to work with the chrome shim, but I do find that it just cuts delicate dies way better, and I don't have to do as many passes. So work with what you have, but if you have this plate, I would use it for anything detailed like this snowflake. And then I tried Tim's technique of just dropping the die onto my glass mat, but nothing came out, so I still had to poke all the little bits out anyways. Now, to make the snowflake stand up more against that very colorful background, because it is fairly delicate, I am going to cut out 3 layers of the snowflake again in just the regular white cardstock I used for the base of my card panel. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I like the dimension that it ends up giving. You guys know that I love texture and dimension on my cards, so I did this just so it would give it more visual weight against that very vibrant background. So just an extra step, and if you were thinking, which I don't generally do pre-thought. I kind of just make things and, just go along. And then I'm like, oh, it would have been a great idea if I had some adhesive on the back of these. I didn't do that. I'm just going to use liquid glue and do it that way. But there's no right or wrong. You want to run these through a Xyron sticker maker like Tim Holtz does and have them, with adhesive already on the back so they're a little easier to adhere. Good call. I don't do that. So I'm just going to add my liquid glue that I love and just go from there and build it up. Of course, I did cut this 3 times. I've layered them up at this point. I'm just going to show you adding the gold layer on top because it is the exact same steps. I use a little bit of liquid glue. I add dots around the snowflake on the points that I think I need it to adhere. And then I line it up and I stick it down. Usually I will add a little weight, so like an acrylic block or something just to sit on top of it so that I have enough weight on it that it actually grabs and stays once I've lined it up how I want it. But it's hard to see here how much dimension just that few layers of cardstock gives it, but it just adds a little something extra to a card that I think really looks pretty. So just a fun way to add a little bit of extra interest. Now, some of the products I've used in this, I've had in my stash for a very long time. Some of them are 4 or 5 years old. Like I've had them a long time. So I will link everything down below for you if you're at all interested in anything I used. If I cannot find the exact item, I will link something very similar to it. At least I'll try to. It's just that some of the stuff like the Nuvo shimmer powders, I've had those in my stash for like since I started crafting, and I've barely touched the surface of the amount of powder you get in them. So they have new colors. I just haven't grabbed them because I already have the colors that I have. So I'm going to use what I have in my stash. You guys know I'm a big believer of using what you already own. You don't have to buy new things, although buying new things is probably another part of this hobby that's super fun to do. But I do believe in using stuff you already have. Like this background, you could easily use any kind of snowflakey background you have, a background stamp, a background stencil, anything like that. And if you want to do it the other way, you can't with a stencil, but you absolutely could with a stamp, then you would just have the positive instead of the negative of the design. But I don't think it matters. I think it's stunning either direction. So as long as you're happy with it, that's all that matters. So there are my backgrounds completely dry. So I'm going to start cutting down my mat now. I'm going to use the exact same gold cardstock that I used for the snowflakes. And there's a big reason as to why I won't cut my snowflakes out of the center of this, though people have mentioned that to me several times in the past. This paper is very delicate, and I'm going to use the word bruise because I don't know what else you would say. It bruises very easily. So if you have any indentations in your plates, anything like that, those marks come off on the gold cardstock, and then it doesn't look as nice. So I choose not to cut the centers of my panels, especially this metallic cardstock, because I do not want bruising in my paper, so completely up to you. If you have a paper that doesn't do that and you want to cut the center out, do it. It's your paper, it's your card, you do what you want to do. But I choose not to do that. So there is a reason in the things that I do. So just so you guys are aware, because I do usually get comments about, how I could preserve my stuff that I'm using. And there's usually a reason as to why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. So just keep that in mind. So for my sentiment, you guys have seen this stamp set pretty much on every Christmas card I've made so far. It is the Simon Says Stamp Christmas Blessings stamp set. And I'm going to use the matching dies here because I do actually own them. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment out on some vellum. This is a very heavyweight vellum. I believe it's about a 60-pound vellum. And I opt to use it because it heat embosses beautifully. And I didn't want to take away from the background of this card. I think that it turned out beautiful. I love vibrant colors. If you guys have been with me for a minute, you know that is my jam, my bread and butter. Vibrant colors is where I love to be. So I don't want to hide those vibrant colors with a sentiment, though you could stamp your sentiment on a white cardstock and cut it out. That would work too. I just opted to go with the vellum because it helps it stay in the background a little bit more and lets the snowflake and the background stand up a little bit more, but there's still a really cool sentiment there. So just a thought that I had with this design. And I am going to use my sidekick to cut this out just because it's simple. I love my little sidekick. Generally, if I can, I will use it just because I find that it's like the easiest way to do things. But you can use any die cutting machine with this. That doesn't matter. I just find that it's really easy to use the sidekick for small cuts like these because it's so much easier. And these are my original plates that came with my sidekick. If you're in the market for one of these are cool. And Tim Holtz just brought out a bunch of embossing folder and die sets that work with them. So you will see those pop up eventually. It's just that we're in Christmas right now, so they are not the main item I'm using. Oh, and this week we are doing a live stream on Thursday. I am working on a waterfall journal that I made. I'm trying to get it finished because it is a gift for one of my pen pals. So I need to get my poop in a group and get it together. So that is what we're working on this week. The notification for it should already be there. You should be able to see what time it's at if you're at all interested. It will be at 3 p.m. PST, which is Pacific Standard Time, which I believe is 6 p.m. EST. I don't know if that helps you at all, but if you're at all interested, the thumbnail for the live is already up, so that'll tell you what it is in your time zone if you want to come and hang out. And I have to admit that the people who come and hang out in the lives are some of the most kind and considerate people I have ever met. And we've got a pretty great kind and considerate community that we're building. We all just kind of visit while I work on stuff. We chat about different things, usually crafty projects or, whatever anybody's up to, or we talk about like the differences between the States and Canada, or sometimes if someone's in there from Europe, they bring up, what's going on in their country, like just the differences in, nuanced words or how things are pronounced, or it's really fun. It's a great group of people. And if you have any interest, come and hang out. You can come and lurk if you're not confident enough to chat. That's perfectly okay. But I hope that you'll come and chat because the people that hang out in there are incredibly kind people and they're very welcoming. It's a great community that we're building here. So I say we, it's me, but they contribute to the community. So I want to give them props. So all of the lovely people who come hang out in the lives, I greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you for making this community such a wonderful place to be. And yeah, so if you want to come hang out on live on Thursday at 3 p.m. PST. So now I've kind of built the card the way I wanted it to. Everything's adhered flat. I didn't add any foam tape in this one, though you absolutely could if you wanted to. I just layered mine up and I'm just kind of building it from there. Side note, if you're not subscribed to my channel and you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That is my goal, and I think we're going to hit it. But of course, it takes people who want to come and hang out with us to make that happen, or hang out with me and the cats pretty much, to make that happen. So if you haven't subscribed and you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you are subscribed and you're one of the people who just, watch my content and comment and hang out, thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You are helping me achieve my dreams, and I cannot thank you enough. So thank you so much. You just heard me kiss Ember's nose. She just stuck her face on my microphone. And anyway, so I did have to add a couple of gold pearls to this because pink and gold, is one of my jams. And I could not resist adding just a little bit of bling to the card. And again, you don't need this step, but I love bling. I love pearls. So I did have to add these because I just think they turned out really beautiful. So that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll consider leaving me a like, leaving me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and every second Thursday is a live stream. So hopefully you'll come and hang out. And today is also Remembrance Day. I'm not sure if we say it like Happy Remembrance Day, but I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but I do know today is Remembrance Day. So if you're having a great day, I hope you are, and I will see you guys again very soon for my next video. And I said there is a live stream this week, so come hang out if you're at all interested. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.